Friend.
Hello. Girl, still hold on. Hello, friend.
Hi. So, it's May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Absolutely our favorite thing to dive into on this episode.
Like all the time, without even trying, just like all the time.
Are we considered a mental health podcast? Are we?
If we're not, we should be.
It's given, it's been that way, and
it's very much. It's just saying. So let's just jump right into it.
Let's jump into it. Let's get to the point.
So something I want to ask, because I was driving home thinking about this, and I was like, how was mental health like introduced to you?
So I want to say my earliest memories of mental health being introduced to me was through my dad, but it was so subconscious. Like I don't feel like my introduction, I knew what I was doing. I don't think I understood that it was like mental health, what was going on. But my dad was always big on like literature and us. So like doing things to mindfulness things together.
Okay.
Actually, when I got older, I just naturally did certain things. I didn't understand why my brain would like think certain ways about certain things. But now that I am fully like aware of like mindfulness and like just how powerful your mind is. And then he was always big on that too. Like your thoughts are everything. Like what you think, if you believe that, that's going to be the truth. So I think he was an empowerer with words in that way. And then we talked about a little bit on the other episode, him affirming. So I feel like that was like my first introduction, his just natural way of creating like mindful conversations and meaningful experiences with each other. So when I went to school and I started getting like the verbiage for it, I felt like I started like connecting the dots. Like, oh, this is kind of like in my family, and this explains why like I'm going into a career path related to it.
Gotcha.
What about you, ma'am?
I was in grad school. Up until then, I had no idea what like mental health like was. That was not talked about, not even in the way that you just framed it. Like I don't have memories, or like those conversations weren't being had, even like on the flip side, like not even like covertly where, like you say, you just put two and two together. No. The only real like coping skill I feel like I knew about was like prayer. Oh, my watch. But other than that, like, yeah, I feel like even I major in like psychology at Mason, but you know, it's really like psychology is so brain based.
I say it's like perception of everything.
Yeah, and I feel like we touched on certain things, but like I remember like I took classes about like stress and like cortisol and like the brain and parts of the brain, what they like. We've dived into that kind of stuff. So I legit feel like until I got like working on my master's in social work, I feel like that was like my first introduction to mental health, which is crazy because I was really sitting here thinking like, did anybody ever kind of like say anything in school? And they did not. Like now I feel like it's talked about more because they're so big on like this social emotional learning and all this kind of stuff. But like, no, I was really sitting there like I had no introduction to mental health, what it was, like how do you deal with it? Like that was just not something that I was aware of. Now obviously I was doing stuff that I didn't know was mental health related, but yeah, no, there were just no conversations.
Did you talk to your school counselor a lot when you were in school or no?
Never.
So I don't feel like I knew first of all, I didn't know I had one. Like I didn't know we were assigned a guidance counselor, but I don't think I ever talked to mine until I was in the 11th grade when I was going to Indian River. And that was like my first introduction to like what a guidance counselor was. And her name was Miss Petey. And she like, it was like having a mom at school, kind of like not a mom per se, but for me, a woman with like wisdom, because I just was being around women who could instill knowledge in me. So I remember my brain being piqued by actually like meeting her, because we had to meet with her, I think, to like schedule our classes or something for 12th grade, even though we were doing the bigger T, but we still did like all the career prep and stuff there. And I just remember being like, I want to do what she does. And I think that's how I like started the segue. But hearing you say that you didn't really hear anybody give you those skills in school, I'm like, I don't really believe that I did either. Because even when I was talking to her, she did, if I need it, like the few times I needed to talk to her about something outside of like college, and that was not often. Like it was on some random, like I didn't go to her office to talk. It was just like I saw her in the hallway.
Yeah.
But that's wild that's not talked about, or wasn't.
Well, I'm going to take that a step further, because being in my position now and being in a school, I thought about this when I first got there, about how like you pretty much have your pool of kids. You have your kids that struggle. You have like, your kids who are considered sped, they get services. And then you have like a pool of kids who like, they just okay, like they're good, they don't need no help or whatever. I feel like because I fell into that category of kids who were perceived to not need help because of my grades, because of me being involved in clubs and stuff, it just makes me wonder. Like, I started thinking about it when I got this job. Like, I wonder how many kids like emotionally fell through the cracks or had stuff going on at home that nobody knew just because they presented well. Because I know it's impossible. Like, you can't have meetings with every single student in the school. You can't like dive into stuff with every single person. But it's just kind of like no joke, outside of like in middle school, I think I met with a counselor when they did like a lunch bunch thing and we could eat lunch with her, but that was like short-lived. But that was more so on like, it was like a reward. Like, it wasn't because something was going on. We were having like these deep conversations. And then in high school, yeah, I met with my counselor when it was like time when I was like a senior. So I went like all those years. Now, elementary school, I didn't really meet with a counselor then either, but I felt like I knew a lot of the staff, and a lot of them were very much so like empowering to me. But yeah, like middle school and high school, like I had a lot of shit going on in my opinion, but because I like maintained good grades and I was in clubs and stuff, I don't feel like kids like us were like checked on. Yeah. So it just makes me wonder, like when is that going to be presented more? Because yeah, it be kids out here just winging it. You just don't know.
I think about it myself. I thrived in school, but my household was fucking chaotic. And I mean on all ends of trauma scales. Like, there was no reason, it was no reason I should have did good in school. It just wasn't.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think me and my sister were the only two that like, what do you call it? The resiliency, because all of my brothers struggled. Literally, it was. But anyway, I said.
But that's what I'm gonna say. So even outside of yourself, think about how many people you know that like you grew up with, that you was friends with, that had shit going on, but because they presented well in school, nobody ever really like stepped in to like support them. Like they may have been able to like confide in a teacher or something, but actually being like counseled. Or like another thing, when I interned with, I like really was trying to wonder. I was like, we had school social workers when we was in school. Like, I did not know that. The only reason why I knew they were around was because my supervisor had told me how long she had been there. So I'm like, okay, well, that means we would have had school social workers when I was going to school. But I'm just like, oh my God, like, did I not know this because I didn't need them? But I'm like, yeah. So it blows my mind that it's just I just feel like it just needs to be talked about, because then I also felt like if something was wrong, I don't know that I would have had it in my head to be like, I need to go talk to the counselor. Like that just wouldn't have crossed my mind.
It doesn't. It never did. Not once to talk to somebody in school. Like it just no.
That is crazy. Like, how did we survive?
That's what I'm like. What in the world? I feel like I kind of like saw me even sitting in class one day because I do feel like when I was in elementary, I think that's when my parents were like the worst on drugs. Mm-hmm. I do remember me being in the guidance counselor. So I didn't realize she was a counselor though. But
okay, gotcha.
Guidance, I stayed in her office, but I was never in trouble. I was really smart. So I was either like, I was always being able to be engaged in something good. But now that I'm older, they probably, I don't know if I was coming to school, not my hygiene wasn't good some days. I don't know what it was, but I definitely like, I remember first grade, kindergarten and first grade, I spent a lot of time like with the school counselor when I wasn't in school. I just didn't know she was a counselor. I just thought she was the fun lady.
Of course. Gotcha. Yeah. It's just it needs to be a thing because I really feel like not even kids, like even parents, like I don't know, especially because my parents are baby boomers, so we're talking about like forever ago. Mm-hmm. Like I don't even know that they were conscious of the fact that like, oh, like Brittany can like go to her school counselor. Like I just don't know that information was shared like it should have been, because like that never crossed my mind. If I was having a rough day, like, oh, I need to go talk to somebody, like my ass would just like take it on the chin. Like I just was in class and I just deal with the shit when I got home. But yeah, I never knew that I could go talk to somebody, which is it's just wild. It's just crazy. So yeah, that's interesting.
That brings me to like a current day thing, because now like you said, it's like almost like, well, why aren't y'all doing this if you aren't now? I know it's I got a parent of a second grader, and so when she's been calling lately for help, she always says, they keep telling me not to call them people at the school, but I need help. She was like, I really need help. And she was like, I keep my sister and try to tell me, you're gonna tell them people your business and da-da-da-da. And I love that she knows that we gonna like, because we're a family up here. As crazy as it is, we are.
Yeah.
Like, even with that, we try to stay within like code, because it is crazy. It's crazy.
So I feel like that segues to my little quote I found. And this came from Yoga International. I don't know if it's their quote, they just posted it. So it says, my mental health really changed when I stopped asking myself, why am I so lazy? And started asking, why does my body need so much rest? Read that again. So I feel like this was like good to dive into. So whether it's like personal or even going back to when you were younger, like we were just talking about, like, are there times where you can kind of be like, I thought I was this, but it really was like anxiety, or it really was like depression, like just the whole, like your perception and other people's perception. I feel like people get a bad rap about sometimes, but really it's literally like a mental health thing. Like it's not them being like an asshole or something. Like it's really something wrong. Mm-hmm. You want me to start or you want to go?
So okay, because I thought about so many different scenarios, but I will say one thing with me that I realized was like my mental health, the way that I ostracize myself sometimes, depending on like my experiences that I have. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking that I'm protecting myself, but really I don't trust people to like show up for me. I don't follow through with who they're supposed to be. So I almost just and not allow myself to even resonate sometimes with people because of that. And that's, yeah, definitely my anxiety. Definitely my anxiety. Yeah.
Gotcha. So, which most people say this unless they've had like a traumatic incident happen to them. I have had anxiety since far as I can remember, like I always had anxiety, but I felt like a lot of times it's just characterized as you being nervous or you being like scary. So like I would get so mad because like say something was like going on and I was like really pissed or like really upset. And people would be like, why are you scared? Like, why your voice shaking? You must be scared. And like in my mind, I'm like, no, you don't know like what I'm about to do. Like, no, this is not fear. Like my anxiety is so high. Like I'm really like I'm about to lose my mind. But just growing up, like even into my adult years, like I just never knew like why I used to feel certain ways, like why my stomach would just feel so upset if I was like worried about something. I just never knew what that was. And lo and behold, like, ma'am, you suffer from anxiety, which is perfectly okay. But when I was younger, I just didn't know that. So yeah, I just didn't understand like why my hands would shake sometimes. I didn't understand like why I would just, oh my God, replay stuff, like stuff that don't even like didn't even matter. I just used to be worried about the craziest things. Like me and somebody could be talking and say like their attitude change or something like that. Like I would literally be up all night sometimes. I'm like, oh my God, are they mad at me? Like, did I say something wrong? Like, why are they acting like that? Like I'm up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning worried about that. And like the next day they just never, like it was nothing.
Yeah.
But my anxiety was just always so bad. Like I just never knew why I held on to certain things like that. But yeah, nobody knew to tell me like you shouldn't be doing that for one. And two, it's probably something deeper going on. And it's not just you being a worrier or you being scared or fearful or something. But yeah, nobody told me like you're dealing with anxiety. Like nobody knew to say that. Or even how I used to like kind of similar to what you said, it took me well into my 20s. Like I just would hold on to stuff and then I would just like explode. And then it will always be something minus. People would be like, yo, what is going on? Like, why is she snapping? Like, why she just bust out crying? And it's because I used to just hold on to stuff and I used to be like, nope, not gonna talk about it, I'm not gonna deal with it. But yeah, I just never knew that that's what that was. But I had so many symptoms of anxiety since I could remember, literally, but that's not what it was labeled as.
So same with the thoughts. But I remember for the majority of my life, I've been outside my body. And I didn't realize that until I started becoming mindful, like in my last couple of years. So what is that called? What is it called? Like being
disassociating?
Yes, I didn't know that I didn't even know, like I just didn't know that I disassociated. I just know it always felt like I was in a movie. Like life was a movie. But it's because I was outside myself. Like I couldn't girl. So that was something that I didn't know was anxiety related.
That's another protective mechanism too. That's another like coping skill people use to protect themselves. So yeah, a lot of being in protective mode for sure.
Yeah. That is girl. Yeah.
Crazy. Oh my God. Yeah, that was deep.
But that explains why I was one of them just keep it rolling people, because I wasn't even I'm gonna
like
feel
present, yeah.
Yeah, like I'm just literally floating. Well, I know I'm supposed to make good grades, so I did exceptionally well. I was like a robot, exceptionally well in school. And I did everything. I still do a lot of shit, but more now so because it's coping skills, it's healthy coping since before it. Yeah. So.
I was thinking the other day, I'm like, both of my parents have anxiety. It's just not, that's not what it's called. Like I never knew it then, but my dad would ruminate. So with the snowballing of the thoughts and his leg, he would shake his leg a lot when he was like talking about stuff. Or he would say how he was worried about such and such. And even me with anxiety, sometimes I used to be like, why are you worried about that? Like, I don't understand, sir. And my mom is very much so I think she does what I do with the hypothetical. Like sometimes she'll call me talking about a situation and she'll be like, she don't say she want my advice, but she'll be like, what if they say such and such, or what it, like she does a lot of like hypothetical what if stuff that I'm just like, well, how you know that's gonna happen? Like, where did they even come from? Yeah. And she does a lot of, she she worries about stuff that's like so Oh, driving in the rain. So she'll even be like, well, I gotta go to the store now because it's supposed to rain. Like she don't like being out in the rain, period.
Yeah.
But like, I'm like, ma'am, that is anxiety because you literally almost have like a phobia of like, I don't need to be caught out there when it's raining.
Right.
So it's just crazy thinking about it now. But I literally was thinking about that like a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like, it's wild that like both of my parents pretty much have anxiety, but nobody ever knew that or talked about it. But looking at them now, like as an adult, yeah, the signs are definitely much there.
I have to say the same too, but it's crazy to me how it presents differently with both of them. That's the crazy part because it's almost opposite the way that they present. So that's even wild because I know my dad was just intense with everything. Like I remember sometimes just being in the car. We supposed to be going to the amusement park or something. And he in the car like, all right, now if I just, and then he did a lot of the shaking and stuff too. Everything was so fucking intense. So, but even fun was intense. So the fun was really fun. But that was him. But my mom was real. Just I got to do this, and everything was quick. The way she, quick. The way I mean, everything was rough. So I had to like check myself even with Ezra because I found myself like when I was helping him get dressed being rough. But it's because that's how my mom was with me.
Mm-hmm.
And she, till this day, when I look at her now, I'd be like, has she been like this my whole life? And I'd be like, Mom, slow down. Like, sit down. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy to see like present day now that we like know what's going on. It's mind blowing. It's mind blowing.
I have a question.
What?
What is the most significant thing you've taken from therapy?
Woo. Most significant thing I've taken from therapy. I got a couple.
Top 3.
I would say honestly, like, and I'm sure I've talked about this on the episode before. I feel like not just myself, people in general, even with me being in the mental health field, there still are things that I was not perceiving as trauma because my idea of trauma was when I used to work in foster care. So stuff on like extreme levels to me was trauma. But now I feel like I'm more conscious and more graceful with myself of understanding like just because it wasn't like the most severe case ever, like just because it happened to me, like that can be traumatic, and trauma, like stuff varies from person to person. So just because such and such like bounce back, that don't necessarily mean like I'm a bounce back. So I guess kind of like really telling myself like, no, like Brittany, that's okay. Like it affected you. Like don't feel bad that you're still going through the motions.
Right.
What else? I would say learning like Socratic questioning and stuff for my anxiety. So really kind of what's the possibility of that happening? Like where to start thoughts coming from? Like, is this like realistic? Like, is this something I've like pretty much put together myself? So really kind of checking my thoughts when my anxiety start to turn up, like, why are we thinking about this? Like, is this even like real? Like, is this really gonna happen? Or like this just something my mind putting together? And a third one. I don't know that I learned this. I think it was just confirmation. Mm-hmm. When Brandon and I did marriage counseling, our therapist was just bomb, and she was very much so down to earth. And she legit told us like she don't believe in that like not going to bed mad stuff. She was just like, she thinks that it's unrealistic to say that everything is going to be solved like right then and there. So I would say from that, I kind of took it as like she pretty much helped us figure out everything don't have to be dealt with right then and there, but at the same time, you don't need to be going 1 to 2 weeks without talking. So I feel like I learned a balance because, especially in my intimate relationships, I'm definitely we can talk about it right now. We're not wasting no time. Like, this need to be addressed right here now.
What?
Like, what we waiting for? But I realized how that could be negative, especially if like both parties is turned to the max.
Right.
So it kind of just helped me to change my view on like conflict management and knowing that, you know, it's nothing wrong with like taking a breather within normal limits, like not taking a breather for weeks to months. Like, there needs to be some solution at some point, but it don't have to be that day.
Right.
I would say that's the top 3 I can think of. What about you?
So one that's similar to yours, to not disdain the experiences that have like shaped me. Like, not being, I get, my rumination comes from, why did you do that for so long? Or, you know, it's just like, I be trying to like figure it out. The second one, I think, would have to be like not associating emotions with negative or positive. That was major for me because it was hard for me to feel certain things. Like, I just, you know firsthand, I do not resonate with being upset or angry or like mad with people. Like, I just just felt like it was a horrible feeling. And it wasn't that it's bad. I just don't like feeling mad. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't expect to be mad sometimes, that I'm
right.
not, and that I'm wrong if I get mad. So that was one thing. Let me think of a third one. I got, those are my 2 things.
Okay, those are your top 2. So why, I mean, obviously we have our reasons for why we like therapy. But like, what are some reasons that, you know, in case anybody is on the fence who's listening to this episode and maybe battling with mental health, why do you feel like people should go to therapy?
I feel like people should go to therapy because it gives you the perspective that you're just not going to think of. Like, when you speak to family, I think you can pretty much gauge the type of response you're going to get. I feel like when you talk to your friends, like people that you've known for years versus somebody who's they're coming into the conversation with the tools that you need. And so it's almost like sometimes, like, it's okay leaning to your support system, but sometimes you need somebody who's skilled in what you're struggling with to give you like something that you just wouldn't have thought of because of your environment. So I feel like it's that third eye, not trying to be deep, but it's the third eye on situations.
No, for real.
So that's why I say I advocate, even if you think it's minor, like, you don't have to be going through something traumatic to go to therapy. So,
facts.
What about you?
So and this is just from my experience alone, like, and you know, I sent you a text about this last week. There has just been so many times where I have been talking about one thing and something else comes up. And I think people just underestimate the power of how so much stuff in our life is just connected. Like, whether it's stuff that comes from our parents that like shows up in our relationships, our friendships, or patterns that we have. It's just been so many times where I'm talking about this, talking about that, and I'm just like, oh my God, like, didn't know that was a thing. Didn't know that was an issue. Like, oh my God. So like, if for nothing else, I love the fact that therapy just kind of, you usually work through multiple things at one time. You're just maybe not conscious of it in the moment. Like, you might go there for like one thing, but a lot of times it's just connected to so many other pieces of your life. So I feel like it's a good way to not necessarily kill 2 birds with 1 stone, but kind of, like, it's just a good way to just work through stuff. And like you said, I think people hear therapy and think they gotta be like going through like the worst times of their life, and that's not it. Like therapy is a good way to do like problem solving. Therapy is a good way to like role play if you're having an issue, you don't know how to talk to somebody. And like you said, sometimes when you go to certain people or like family members, like first of all, don't none of them be having no kind of background and nothing. Like let's just start like like no, and then even when it comes down to like your relationships and marriages, none of them ain't got nobody ain't happily married. No, none of
I will never.
like, no. You need to go to somebody that is trained, okay? Trained, not street trained, but like
book trained,
like
scholar credentials. This what the study was done and the data shows.
Exactly. Like yeah, not hood trained. It's just good to be able to like bounce that stuff off people. Or even sometimes my therapist, and I'd be weird every time she say this. It's not funny, but like I'll just like drop something, and she'll be like, "Brittany, I never heard you say that," and I be thinking to myself, "Yeah, me neither." But I don't know if I ever told anybody this, but sis, like here we are. So like, what are we gonna do? Like I just think it's a safe space. So I just feel like it's just good to just say stuff that like you just wouldn't tell anybody else or stuff you haven't talked about. Like,
so can we give an example? Because that just happened to me yesterday. Okay. I mean, just happened to me yesterday. So I had an emergency therapy appointment because I already had mine for this month for baby. I had to come back because you're gonna cuss me out because this is exactly what she was talking about. Like I'm supposed to be talking about this traumatic thing that I've seen, and it turns into some deep shit. So I witnessed a shooting yesterday.
Shawana, what the hell?
I know. Let me get to where I'm going. I said you're gonna cuss me out, okay? Because why didn't I tell you, right? Okay, I told that story to say I talked to my therapist about it. And so she was like, well, do you feel supported up there? And I was just telling her I was just having anxiety about being outside. I did go try to get lunch. Dude was working on the house with a staple gun. The dude, I literally like jumped. And he won't do another working inside the house because it's like I just could hear the gunshot in my head. So I was like, I know my thoughts are irrational because it looked like a targeted. It's not like people just out here shooting people.
Shooting, yeah.
He could have shot anybody. He had been standing there for a good, because as long as I was at the stop sign, he was there. It had been a minute. Because it's like 3:30 in the afternoon. So she goes, okay, so who did you tell? And I was like, well, I had just got off work, so I was already in my work group chat. So I voice noted the Richmond natives because they're from the area, whatever. I chatted all the coordinators at my job, and Danny had called, and I told Danny. And so she was like, okay, and basically I was just naming different people that do support me, but she was like, but you didn't call. She was like, well, what about your boo? And I was like, I didn't. I talked to him today. And she was like, and I was like, any particular reason why?
It's not funny. Oh God, you stressed me out.
She didn't say nothing. So any particular reason why? I was like, I don't really talk about traumatic stuff. When I go through, I don't really talk about it to people. And she was like, and I was like, I'm guessing maybe I should say something. She was like, I just want to know why not? Why not? And now she was like, I mean, it could be, are you scared that he won't show up for you in that way? And I was like, probably, but when you said it to me, it doesn't make sense because that's never happened. Like, that's not even, it didn't make sense. She was like,
we've had this conversation about another person before. Yeah. Okay.
And then she was like, did you call your dad? No. Okay. So me just thinking that I'm calling my therapist to talk about this traumatic thing that I saw was like, so why didn't you call your support system to talk to them about this? And I was like, oh, I'm not really open in that way. And the people that I told were people that I have to talk to all the time because of the nature of our connections. Like, even though Danny's my soul sister, we do business together. I work with all the other people that I told, and I didn't tell anybody else. And so I was like, my good friend Brittany here is going to cuss me out because I didn't say anything to her either. So,
right.
Yeah. So I definitely just had that happen to me. So if that helps anybody, definitely trying to not operate like I'm dealing with people who have fumbled me in that way in the past when they're actually showing up for me now. Why am I still moving in that way? So yeah.
Okay, you just like
Sorry.
what in the world? Yeah, we'll talk after we stop recording. When is the last time she told me she never heard me say that? Okay, I'm not gonna say who it is, but I brought a person up that is very, very close to me. And I basically said, I don't really feel as close to them as I should be. And my therapist was like, Brittany, I hate mocking her, but that's how she sounded to me. She's like, Brittany, she's like, I've never heard you say that before. And I was like, yeah, I know. I was like, it's not something that like I talk about. And she was just like, okay. She was like, we can explore that. She was like, is there a reason why you don't talk about it? And I was just like, because it makes me uncomfortable and it makes me feel ungrateful. But if anybody knows me, I am notorious, not as much anymore, but I am notorious for putting my feelings on the back seat. And I was just like, here we go again. So needless to say, this has been ongoing for like a month because yeah, I have just been holding on to this stuff and I just don't talk about it. Like even the way I phrased it to her, she'll ask me sometimes, like, well, did you tell Brandon that? And I'll be like, not like how I just told you. I'm like, he might hear it in like a situation, but I'm like, no. So even just me worried about how this person is going to be perceived, like I'm always just like, Brittany, you can be on the back burner, but you cannot let XYZ feel like they are not like the best person ever or that they haven't shown up. And I very much so used to do that a lot. It's not as bad anymore, but clearly it's not over because I'm actively discussing this in therapy. So yeah, it's just, oh, here's one if you really need help. So I am working on forgiveness for a specific person. And last night, Shawana, we can discuss this after we're done.
Oh, okay.
I found a very specific similarity between me and somebody who I am no longer fond of, like at all. And it like blew my mind.
That'd be the worst. You'd be like, oh.
It blew my mind, but I feel like it is going to be very helpful in not only my forgiveness, but also in me like letting go of something that I don't like that I do. But I had no idea that was going to happen. Like I just didn't know that's where that was going. But yeah, just go. You just never know what comes up. I was
not just go after that. Just go.
And like at this point, what are you waiting for? Like, what are you waiting for?
Because I was about to say, this is going to deter somebody who does not like growth. This is going to deter somebody who is comfortable, you know, operating as maybe the victim or maybe operating in a way that doesn't require change. And I get it, because anxiety has a lot to do with not liking change sometimes. Like,
yes.
But like you said, at this point, if you say better is what you want, you know, you need to go there.
You just have to. Like,
yeah.
Well, I hope we didn't scare y'all off, but
right. Because it gets real.
It does. Go.
So not to shamelessly plug ourselves, but you know, Brittany and I have some very special mindfulness tools that you guys can use. If you go to Rightfully So Brittany's page, she has journals. Journaling is an amazing mindfulness practice that can help if you struggle in the mental health area in any type of way. Just even if you feel like your thoughts are chaotic, getting them out of your head and onto paper is amazing. So grab your journal, they're themed.
Period.
I'm not gonna go grab them right now, but I got a lot. And I use them. I'm using my Leo one right now at work. But anyway, do that. And if you guys go to Predominantly Love and click the link in my bio, I have a workbook, 28-day workbook guide that gives you the practical tools, breath work, affirmations, and journal exercises daily to help you like implement a routine that is tailored to your highest, truest, and most authentic. So,
and you have other services.
Oh yeah, guys. This was supposed to just be for the books.
But you have other services, so
I also guide meditation. I am a wellness coach. So if you ever want to drop into a workshop, I have them every first Sunday in Norfolk. I have them every fourth Saturday starting in June in Richmond. And I do one-on-one services. I do them virtually. I haven't started in person yet, but that is also a jazz if you want to. So yeah. Thank you, Brittany.
Yeah, because 2022 are no longer being modest. Like, yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and Brittany's a writer too, guys. So
just saying.
Check out the blog because I'm pretty
sure.
Just saying. Yeah, shit coming down the pipeline.
Just saying.
Outside of the blog, right? So yeah, you guys should stay tapped in, tuned in, turned on. You want to plug our socials, Britt?
Yeah, so we are Brown Skin Blueprint at like everything. Please subscribe. Please rate us on whatever podcast platform you listen to us on. Like our content, share our content, follow us, talk to us. Like, we like talking to y'all. Like, talk to us. Like, email us, leave us something nice in the comments, and yeah.
Yes, stay active. Any questions you guys want to hear us talk about the topics? Like she said, DM or email. Everything's there.
Yes.
So thank you guys as always for tuning in. We hope that if nothing else, you guys took some type of tool or experience that we had to help you in Mental Health Awareness Month. Happy wellness. I don't know. Is that something like? May your thoughts be clear and may they be aligned. Have a great
day. Well, all right, y'all. We are out. Thanks for kicking it with us, and happy Mental Health Awareness Month.